When we think of child abduction, we often imagine the horrors of a child stolen from their home. But sometimes the true terror lies in the years of suffering and abuse that follow. This is the true story of Esther Combs, now Elsa Garcia, a young woman who endured 2 decades of unimaginable abuse, hidden away from the world. Her story, which was kept secret for years, only came to light after a suicide attempt that shocked everyone. Today, we're diving deep into the chilling details of how Esther's story came to the surface, the trials of her abusers, and the life she's rebuilding now. Viewer discretion is advised due to the sensitive and disturbing nature of the content discussed in this video. This case includes graphic details of abuse that may be upsetting to some viewers. It all began in 1978 in a small orphanage in Indiana. Esther, an innocent baby, was supposed to be adopted like any other child, but instead, a couple named Joseph Combs and his wife Evangeline took her under false pretenses. They promised to adopt Esther, but they never did. They never intended to give her a loving home. Instead, they took her under their control, hiding her from the world and raising her in a system of abuse and neglect. The couple's home in Bristol, Tennessee, became the prison for young Esther. At first, the abuse was subtle, but over time, it grew into something far darker. Joseph, a Baptist minister in the community, and Evangeline, his wife, kept Esther isolated, treating her not as a daughter but as a servant. While the world saw them as pillars of the community, their home became the site of horrific abuse that no one could have imagined. Esther's abuse began almost immediately after the Combs brought her into their home. As she grew older, the physical and mental torture escalated in intensity. Joseph and Evangeline weren't just abusive, they were calculating and cruel, ensuring that Esther never felt safe or loved. Their method of control was built on fear, manipulation, and violent punishment. One of the most horrific forms of physical abuse Esther endured was regular beatings with objects such as baseball bats and belts. On many occasions, her adoptive mother, Evangeline, would use pliers to pull chunks of Esther's flesh from her body. This unspeakable cruelty left her with over 400 scars. Esther was burned with curling irons and forced to endure broken bones that were never treated properly. Her injuries were so severe that they often went untreated, leading to infections and chronic pain that she carried with her for years. Esther was whipped until her body was shredded, starved, chained, isolated, and repeatedly denied any medical care. She was forbidden from speaking unless spoken to, trapped in a life where silence and obedience were her only means of survival. Over the years, Esther accumulated more than 400 scars across her body, each a brutal testament to the life of constant pain, fear, and isolation she was forced to endure. All while Joseph and Evangeline Combs maintained a public image as a loving, devout, religious family. But the abuse didn't stop there. The Combs used methods of punishment that went beyond what most people could even imagine. They employed a range of terrifying techniques to break Esther's spirit. At one point, they forcibly cut off a piece of her tongue with pliers as punishment for a minor infraction. The damage was irreversible, but that act of violence was merely a glimpse into the unrelenting cruelty Esther faced daily. Beyond the physical abuse, the mental and emotional toll on Esther was even more devastating. Joseph and Evangeline kept her isolated, making sure that she had no contact with the outside world. and they manipulated her into believing she was worthless and deserving of the abuse. This mental conditioning took away any sense of self-worth she might have had. They often told her she would never be good enough, constantly undermining her confidence. At one point, they also forced Esther to assume a false identity. She was known as Elsa Garcia, a name she had to adopt to survive under their roof. This added another layer of confusion to Esther's already fragmented sense of self. She was kept in complete isolation, denied the right to education, and given only the most basic provisions, like food and clothing, that were often insufficient for her needs. Also, Joseph Combs repeatedly sexually abused Esther, beginning when she was 12 years old. The reasons Joseph and Evangeline Combs tortured Esther were deeply disturbing. They saw her as their property, someone they could completely control and dominate without consequence. Because they never legally adopted her, Esther remained off any official records, allowing them to hide their crimes for years. Joseph, a Baptist minister, also twisted religious teachings to justify their cruelty, using faith as a mask for his abuse. Evidence revealed they took sadistic pleasure in causing her pain, going far beyond mere discipline into deliberate, brutal torture. Additionally, they projected their failures onto Esther, blaming and scapegoating her for everything wrong in their lives. Esther's escape began after a devastating suicide attempt in February 1997, after drinking Antifreeze in a desperate bid to end the pain. She was rushed to the hospital. It was there that doctors began to notice the severity of her condition. Esther had multiple scars and injuries that were inconsistent with her claims of accidents. Her story didn't add up, and medical professionals immediately grew suspicious. The doctors alerted authorities, who began investigating the Combs family, leading to the eventual discovery of Esther's years of suffering. The investigation revealed shocking details about the abuse she endured, but it also revealed the extent of the manipulation and control Joseph and Evangeline had over her life. Her body was covered in layers of old and new scars, over 400 in total. She also had untreated fractures, burn marks, and signs of extreme malnutrition. These injuries could not be explained by a single incident. They told a story of long-term, systematic abuse. When Bristol Police Detective Debbie Richmond was assigned the case, she quickly realized this was not an ordinary abuse case. Esther initially refused to answer questions about her injuries, likely out of deep-seated fear and conditioning. Detective Richmond, however, was determined. She spent countless hours gaining Esther's trust, carefully piecing together the truth. Over time, Esther bravely opened up about the unimaginable horrors she had suffered. Richmond also conducted thorough investigations, gathering medical evidence, interviewing neighbors, former church members, and digging into the Combs' background. As the investigation deepened, authorities built a strong case. Joseph and Evangeline Combs were arrested 3 weeks later, each held on $250,000 bond. The charges included aggravated child abuse, kidnapping, assault, and false imprisonment. The bravery of Esther, combined with the relentless dedication of Detective Richmond and the medical staff's immediate action, exposed a horrifying crime that had been hidden for nearly 2 decades. Joseph and Evangeline Combs refused to answer investigators' questions about Esther's condition, while family members claimed ignorance about the abuse. However, Detective Debbie Richmond of the Bristol Police Department, refused to give up. Her relentless dedication was crucial in finally bringing the Combs to justice. In early 2000, the trial began. Esther, now 22 years old and living under a different name, bravely took the stand. In heartbreaking detail, she testified about her years of unimaginable abuse, daily beatings with bats, belts, and boards, burns from curling irons pressed into her skin, chunks of flesh torn away with pliers, brutal whippings, her tongue partially cut off with pliers as punishment for speaking, starvation, chaining, and emotional isolation. Esther's quiet, trembling voice revealed horrors that stunned the jury and the public alike. On April 7, 2000, justice was served. Joseph Combs was convicted on 19 counts, including aggravated kidnapping, aggravated child abuse, aggravated assault, and malicious wounding, and sentenced to 114 years in prison. Evangeline Combs was convicted on 8 counts, including kidnapping and child abuse, and sentenced to 65 years in prison. Neither of them showed any remorse nor apologized to Esther during the proceedings. They were led out of the courtroom in shackles, finally held accountable for the decades of torment they had inflicted. Esther's courage in speaking out ensured not only her own justice, but also exposed how evil can hide behind a facade of religious respectability. Her story stands as a powerful testament to survival, truth, and the strength of the human spirit. In 2001, after the trial concluded, Esther chose to start a new life, a life free from the darkness of her past. She moved to a different state and assumed a new identity, becoming Elsa Garcia. The change was part of her effort to distance herself from the abusive memories and begin anew. Under her new name, she embraced her freedom and privacy, away from the prying eyes of the media and the remnants of her past. One of the most important steps in her healing journey was her appearance on the Dr. Phil show in 2003. The show gave her a platform to share her story with a wider audience and to speak out about the abuse she had suffered. She shared her emotional journey with viewers, allowing the world to understand the deep scars left by her abusers. It was a pivotal moment in her life, and it helped her to reclaim her voice after years of silence. Her bravery in recounting the events of her childhood inspired many others who had experienced similar abuse to come forward and seek help. Today, Elsa Garcia is living a life of peace, far from the horrors she once endured. She has rebuilt her life, found a sense of safety, and worked hard to advocate for children's rights. Elsa dedicates much of her time to raising awareness about child abuse, using her voice to protect others who may be going through similar experiences. She is involved in various organizations that work to support survivors of abuse, and she continues to advocate for stronger child protection laws. Though the scars from her past will never fully disappear, Elsa has learned to live with them, using her story to help others heal. She now enjoys a quiet, peaceful life, focusing on personal growth and helping others who have suffered like she did. Her incredible strength and resilience are a beacon of hope for those still trapped in the darkness of abuse, showing that even after unimaginable suffering, healing is possible. In December 2019, Evangeline Combs, who was sentenced to 65 years in prison, sought parole after serving 20 years. During the parole hearing, Elsa Garcia courageously testified about the abuse she endured. A parole board member recommended denying her parole, and the remaining board members agreed, denying her release. She will not be eligible for another parole hearing until 2029. Joseph Combs, sentenced to 114 years for his role in the abuse, passed away in prison after serving part of his sentence. Elsa Garcia, your strength is beyond words. What you endured for years, the unimaginable horrors at the hands of those who were supposed to love and protect you, could have broken anyone, but not you. Through every beating, every scar, every moment of fear and isolation, you showed the world what true resilience is. Your courage in speaking out, in sharing your painful past with the world, has sparked a light in so many who were lost in darkness. You are a symbol of survival, not just for yourself, but for countless others who suffered in silence. You took back your voice, your life, and your power, and now you're helping others find theirs. The strength it takes to rise from such trauma is beyond comprehension. Yet, you did it. You proved that nothing, not even the darkest of experiences, can define you or take away your light. Elsa, you are truly one of the strongest individuals to ever walk this earth, and the world is better for having your story told. Thank you for being the voice that so many needed to hear. You are forever an inspiration, and your journey continues to give hope to others who may still be suffering. You've turned your pain into purpose, and that is nothing short of extraordinary. If you found this story important, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turning on notifications will ensure you never miss another story that needs to be heard. Please remember, liking this video does not mean you support the crime. It means you support bringing awareness to real, urgent issues that affect so many lives. I also encourage you to follow me on Facebook for more updates and discussions. Your support helps bring more light to these vital conversations. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and take care of yourself. I'll see you in my next video.